Right? And I'm not playing no games. Yeah.
Saturday morning cartoons. That's right. Let's do it. Saturday morning cartoons with this guy, Pops. That's right. We're going to talk about X-Men animated series. We've been cruising along there well past season 1. We're into season 2 now. This is actually episode 6 in season 2. It's called X-Ternally Yours, which is a play on the character X-Ternal, who is in this. It's sort of like this. We'll get to that character. So this story is probably like what I would if this was if this was more like a review that I was doing like on a weekly basis or anything like that. This would be one of those like filler episodes where we move from, this is what we're talking about to this is what we're going to talk about, but we really hadn't talked about this one character or something. This is what that episode is. This is Gambit's episode. Basically, we're going to just take Gambit back to his home, learn a little bit more about his family, a little bit more about what he has left behind to be an X-Man. It starts off in the danger room, and you're seeing them exercise. Now, Gambit is doing the controls for Cyclops, Jean, and Rogue, and they're crushing it, right? It's almost like it's too easy, and actually Cyclops at one point just starts complaining, yeah, this is way too easy. Now, it's interrupted because Gambit makes a phone call, and in the phone call, that's where the story kind of picks up, and that he is finding out that his brother Bobby has disappeared, and it has to do with the tithe to X-Ternal. Okay, and we're going to get to that. And then he's worried that they're going to kill his brother. He actually says they're going to waste my brother. Now, Rogue is the one that hears the chaos or whatever and realizes that Gambit has leaned on the controls and turned it up to maximum, which makes it deadly. And Cyclops does nearly die, or at least that's the presumption, right? We see him pretty well damaged. And then we have a flashback that explains a little bit about this external character. And there's this tithe by the Assassins Guild and the Thieves Guild. And there's this character, Belladonna, and there's this tithing process where they take this little box to this external. And if you didn't have the box, or the box doesn't meet standards, or the box doesn't make it to this area at time, then basically she sends you off to somewhere. She basically wastes you, right? And when Gambit arrives, he meets up with Pierre. Pierre's one who informs him, and they go to where these other assassins are, and this old mansion. So everything is very New Orleans, right? It's all very Creole. The language, the design of the mansion, kind of everything they're going for is sort of like over the top Creole. And Belladonna's there, and you end up with this backstory about Bella and Gambit were supposed to get married, and Gambit left her, and now he has to put this ring on. In order to put the ring on, she basically blackmails me. Put the ring on, I'll let Bobby go, let the brother go. Now the ring causes pain and it sucks out his power. So he's got this ring that emanates things. So he's basically trapped. Talk about just a metaphor for don't get married. It's really, really crazy. Anyway, Jean, Rogue, and Wolverine are going after Gambit, trying to figure out why aren't they run off like this? What's going on? Those kinds of things. And there's interaction with the Thieves Guild, and there's like more explanation of this whole tithing process, and they have their rescue plan to save Gambit. And then once they run into him, he's dressed in a tuxedo because she's going to marry him, right? She's got this ring on him. He can't really escape her control. He's basically kind of trapped. It is kind of fun to see Rogue jealous, like, because she's had to play this game where she can't be affectionate, but then she had kissed him one time by kissing the back of her hand. And there's this whole thing with this character called X-Ternal. And when they meet, what ends up happening is it's all basically been a trap by Bella. Basically, she's trying to figure out a way to get Gambit. She's faked out the thieves, when they gave them the tithe back, she gave them a fake one. So that now whenever there's judgment, the judgment is going to be on all of them. And Jean is the one who figures all this out by using her telepathic powers. And the external basically is just crushing it, taking care of business. And then suddenly Jean is talking to her and explaining through different images and different kind of things that it's all been a plot. It's all been a scheme by Belladonna, and it comes on Gambit, who has to make the decision on what to do with her, because normally, she'd basically be wasted. And he says, no, instead, just let her live, but take her powers away. And he basically says, I'm never coming back. I'm an X-Men now. And there's a little scene about Jean and Cyclops having a trust and talk about trust. And Wolverine has the best line of this episode. There are fun moments in this episode, but this episode is very, very bland. And it is, like I said, it's a filler episode. It gives us a little bit more information about Gambit. It doesn't give us more of a commitment from Gambit that he is all in on being an X-Men. I've never liked this. I've never liked the interpretation of Gambit and his universe, where it's going to be that heavy Creole, all these, like, I don't want to say this caricature, but the stereotypes of all of that. I just never cared about all that. I just never liked it. It's fine sort of in a small dose, and when it's Gambit, when I'm immersed in all of it, I just don't enjoy it that much. I want to go back to that Wolverine line, because he talks about it's just great. He says, I had to write it down, make sure I got it right. I don't care which spirit lady does what to which Cajun. I'm just here to stop a wedding. What? It's almost like a shirt. I don't care which spirit lady does what to which Cajun. I'm just here to stop a wedding. Oh, Wolverine. It is no wonder Wolverine he was obviously already this kick butt character, cool claws, tough, all these different things. But then they give him lines like that where you're just like, it's freaking great. Now, I've been pretty critical of the X-Men series with how they handled these little backstories with Savage Land. So it's no surprise that we're going to have another Savage Land backstory. And you can go back through and read some of the comments. I think PKL Entertainment, who is just a great content creator, made a comment about how it does have a payoff when we get there. But again, my problem is not that I don't know there's not a payoff. I just don't see the reason to have had all of these little things like that. They're time fillers. They're so short. They don't really thread together particularly well. Like it's very start stop for us to kind of enjoy that story. And here, Xavier Magneto all goes back to the Morph episode. Morph being controlled by Mr. Sinister, fooling them to be face to face. There's an avalanche that pushes them over a waterfall. Xavier saves Magneto, but they don't have powers, right? Because Xavier is walking. Magneto doesn't have power, and they realize that they're in this place. You see the pterodactyls, and then what they learn is called the Savage Land. But what's weird is, and there's a big fight of the T-Rex, which I think is probably the best part to date, is there's all these talks about Magneto not only knew about this place, but he's the one who trained him up. And here they encounter another character called Barbarous, who starts fighting them, right? And he starts talking about how Magneto had taught them to fight the most powerful, right? And they don't have their powers, so it's Charles who has to be very smart and strategic with what he uses to attack. He knocks like a bee's nest down, things like that. Like it's a very different kind of thing for him to save Magneto this time. And then we cut. And another reason I call this a filler episode, and I'm kind of down on it, because I really wanted to. I thought about adding a second episode, but I can't, because the next episode is at least a two-parter, and we get. This is where it becomes gold, right? Because it's Cable and Bishop. It's called Time Fugitives, and we're going to get that Days of Future Past, the future timelines. This is this element of X-Men that adds so much gravity to their stories, because of their lives are set on a timeline that's headed towards this horrible, dark, apocalyptic, nihilistic place, for lack of a better term. And in some cases it is apocalyptic because it's apocalypse, right? So it's really good to get to a story like this that's going to be so heavy, but we got to do them all. We got to get through. X-Ternally Yours was not one of my favorites. Gambit is not one of my favorites either. So it is kind of one of those things where it's not totally a fair assessment. I'm willing to admit that. So anyway, I know you guys love to interact and talk about the X-Men animated series. We're having a great time doing Saturday morning cartoon with Pops. Next up at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, if you're doing this premiere live, it'll be Batman animated series. And then I am working on some sort of like a filler type video that would be in between these two. So X-Men will end and we'll do a little filler video. Then we'll do Batman, or I might talk about other cartoons and commercials and do that kind of thing to give you a better feel of that old Saturday morning cartoon experience. Because these two shows are from 1992, where I'm so old, by the way, that I have more like 70s memories. So it's a lot different than that. So anyway, that's my take on things. I am Pops. Thank you so much for watching.